Welcome to the Mary Ewing Law Show.
Welcome back to the Mary Ewing Law Show. Mary is a veteran Colorado attorney who has spent more than 40 years helping clients navigate workers' compensation, personal injury, and family law cases. Known for providing clear guidance during life's hardest transitions, she helps clients find stability and confidence through the divorce process. I'm Chelsea, and in this episode, we're talking about what to expect when you're just starting to think about divorce and how to take those first steps with clarity and confidence. This is episode 5. I'm thinking about divorce. Where do I even start?
It's a tough time, it really is. And you're absolutely right that first call is rarely made lightly. Most people who reach out are scared, exhausted, or just deeply uncertain about what comes next. They're trying to understand whether their life is about to completely change, and it usually is, financially, emotionally, and sometimes as a parent. In those first few moments, my goal isn't necessarily to give legal advice right away. It's to give them a sense of calm and control. Divorce in Colorado follows a legal process, but the first step is often emotional. It's recognizing that something isn't working and that you need to start understanding your options.
So, if somebody comes to you and they aren't sure whether divorce is the right step, what do you first tell them to think about?
There isn't really a rote thing that I say to everybody, but I do try to emphasize that they don't have to make decisions that particular day. Uh, in Colorado, they can explore their options without committing to filing for divorce. So I encourage people to think about, again, 3 things. Safety. Is there emotional, physical, or financial safety right then? Communication. Is there still a path towards cooperation or counseling? And information. Do you understand your financial picture, your rights, and what divorce would mean in your specific situation? If someone isn't ready to file, we can still talk about what physical separation looks like, what temporary financial support might be available, and how to prepare if they decide to move forward later. Sometimes just knowing the path helps people feel less trapped.
And people hear a lot of myths online or from friends. What's one common misconception about filing for divorce in Colorado that you wish everyone understood?
That one spouse has to be at fault. Not true at all. The test is whether the parties have reached irreconcilable differences. That's all it is. In fact, the court won't even listen to what one person has done bad. Honestly, they could have slept with everybody under the sun. They could have made really bad business decisions. Um, they could be a scoundrel. Court doesn't want to hear about that.
Before meeting with a lawyer, what info or documents should somebody try to gather up?
It's important and sometimes one spouse can't get a hold of everything. And so you can get it all during the litigation process. But things like deeds, bank accounts, retirement accounts, pensions, tax returns, I don't know if I said that or not, pay stubs, if there was a prenuptial or postnuptial agreement, and then a list of major assets and monthly expenses. You don't have to organize everything perfectly, but even partial records helps me to understand the financial landscape. That way, the first meeting can focus on strategy, not just fact finding. And of course, we didn't even talk about whether there were children at issue. Helps me to know, are the children, what ages are the children? Are there, how is, are there any informal arrangements as to where the children will be or which parent they'll stay with? Are they doing okay in school? How are they affected by what's going on in the family? That kind of information helps me to have an idea what path to follow in terms of my questioning.
How does the initial consultation usually work with you? Is it more of a strategy session or is it just a conversation to understand where they are emotionally and legally?
I think it's both. The first consultation is part legal triage, figuring out where things are, and part counseling. We spend time understanding what's brought them to me, what's working, what's not, what are the person's immediate concerns. And I try to explain the Colorado process, that there's a mandatory 91-day, you might think of it as a waiting period between the time that you file for divorce and before the divorce can be finalized. And that there are temporary orders that can address things like where the children are going to be, who's going to make financial or medical decisions, educational decisions about them, and the use of the home while the case is pending. By the end of that first meeting, my goal is for them to leave with two things: clarity with their rights and a little less fear.
What are some early mistakes that you see people make in those first few weeks that can make things harder later on?
Well, we all post on social media, but this is not the time to post anything that has to do with you and your spouse and the children. If you want to talk about your dog or your mom visiting, something completely not a problem. But really, it's better not to post anything because you might not think it's a problem, but I might. Moving money or assets, you don't want to make financial shifts that can be viewed as hiding property. Leaving the marital home without a plan. Sometimes people just move out and they don't have a plan what they're going to do, where they're going to go, how they're going to pay for it. And that can affect both temporary orders and parenting time with children. And then relying on informal agreements. Good intentions can go sideways quickly, especially when emotions run high. So my advice is slow down. Take time to understand the rules before you make decisions, before you make any big moves.
Divorce can feel overwhelming. What helps clients stay grounded and make good decisions during this emotional process?
I would say information and pacing. People make their best decisions when they're calm and informed. I tell clients to focus on what they can control: their own communications, documentation, and self care. Leave everything else to me. Let me take on that burden for them. I also encourage clients to build a support team: legal, emotional, and sometimes financial. They need that. A good therapist or counselor can help the person process their feelings so they don't make choices that are rushed or bad throughout a fear. The legal process is about problem solving. The emotional process is about healing.
You've mentioned children factoring in a few times in this session. How do children factor into the first conversations, especially when parents are still figuring out what may be best for them?
Well, the children are obviously, for most people, the heart of the issues, and it forms the heart of my first discussions with them. In Colorado, we don't use the term custody. We use the terms of parenting time and parental responsibilities. parental responsibilities are decision making as it relates to education, religious, financial, extracurricular activities. The focus has to be on what's in their best interest, but parents often disagree substantially on what's in their child's best interest. So parents are encouraged, I encourage them to stay involved unless there's a safety concern. Try to shift their mindset from gaining control, almost like a possessory interest, to what's best for the children. They're also experts that can be called in to interview the parents, interview the children, interview family members, teachers, and make recommendations to the court. That can be quite helpful because the judge doesn't have a whole lot of time to figure out who's making the right decisions for the child, who's being the appropriate parent, what decisions should the court grant. When I say court, I mean judge, should grant to each parent. And are there issues regarding where the parents live? Maybe they live a distance apart. Maybe even one parent lives out of state. That can get very complicated in terms of how you resolve parenting time.
Finally, what's your message for somebody who's listening, who's scared to pick up the phone, but knows things can't stay as they are?
They can take two avenues. They can seek initially some emotional support through a therapist, family, friends, a religious person. But I think that is very helpful. But generally speaking, they need to know what the legal process is to understand what their rights are and where this process is taking them. They don't have to necessarily make a decision when they come see me. No reason to rush. It's an important step, but it helps to understand what their rights are.
That's it for today's episode of the Mary Ewing Law Show. If you're considering divorce and need straightforward guidance from someone who's helped thousands of clients through life's toughest transitions, visit maryewinglaw.com or call 303 761 1400. Thanks again for listening, and remember to like, subscribe, or leave a review if you found this episode helpful.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.